Joining us now from Cape Town is Amanda Cromhout, the CEO of Truth and e-Merce Commerce. Amanda previously spent 11 years at British Airways, leading sales and marketing teams across the UK, Africa, Middle East and Asia. She has also spearheaded the CRM division at Woolworths, South Africa's leading premium retailer. Her number one lockdown insight is learning to deal with things which used to be in her control and is now no longer at all. So Amanda's topic today is customer loyalty, a labor of love. Over to you, Amanda.
Thanks, Pepe. Thanks, Pepe. Well, my goodness me, what an act to follow, Fernando, that was. I know you may not be listening now, but that was phenomenal. But let's not take away from the rest of the morning. I've been watching behind my screen at home, and it's just been fantastic. So Dale and Tracy, you've been managing this for a long time now and managed the curveballs of getting us all here digitally, and it's been absolutely amazing. So a real honor to be here. So today's theme is Marketing Works, and I want to talk to you about Loyalty Works. So it's been many a boardroom experience of mine personally that you stand there and the board members just say, loyalty's a waste of time. We're not investing in it. We don't want to do it. It's a complete waste of time. Nobody likes them. Well, actually, I'm not here today to prove to you otherwise from my own experience. I'm here today to share with you what South Africans feel about that. So it's a fact that 72% of South Africans use loyalty programs. So it's not that they like loyalty programs. 72% actually use loyalty programs. So I think that's a phenomenal stat. It comes out of the Truth and BrandMap loyalty white paper that is released annually. The other stats that are in this white paper actually also talk about how loyalty influences behavior. So the users of loyalty programs say that these loyalty programs genuinely change where I shop, what I buy in the store, where I bank, where I buy fuel, and so on. So if you can get this right, it really can work. Loyalty can really work. And we can push some of the cynicism away. But if you get it wrong, it can be an insanely costly exercise and potentially a waste of money. So let's just look at this as a demographic breakdown, because obviously not everyone who uses loyalty programs use it equally. So the age-old cliche, but men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And trust me, in loyalty usage, that is absolutely no different either. We have the data broken down by gender, by age, by income, but I thought I'd just share with you today about how men and women are different. So what we see effectively is that men and women actually use programs fairly similar percentage, 71% for men and 73% for women. So there's not a mass difference there, but the number of programs you see is slightly larger for women and less for men. But these stats you see on the screen of 6.3% for women and 4.8% for men is quite small in comparison to actual international trends. You see in the US it's over 13 cards in a loyalty wallet. Maybe it's now in a loyalty app, but nevertheless, membership. And here in South Africa, you may think those numbers are large. That's an interesting debate that we always have when we have a live audience. But how do they actually use loyalty programs differently? So you'll see here across on the left how women use loyalty programs and what they prefer, and men on the right. But please don't let me mislead you, because the top headline is actually all consumers want cash. They all want cash back. Money speaks. So if you're designing a loyalty program, do not think you can get away with quirky gamification and a few vouchers. At the end of the day, if you want your customers to give their data, shop with you willingly, there has to be a reward exchange, a value exchange of sorts. So what we see here is on the left-hand side for women, they prefer the discount vouchers. They do the majority of the shopping, so it makes sense that they get the vouchers to spend, maybe on treats for themselves, or on the family shopping for the week. The double points, so whether it's a points-based program like you see at Discam or Pick and Pay or Clicks, double points can really change the choice of merchandise within the store. Free gifts and samples is a big one for ladies, because obviously that can be seen as a treat, and we see it particularly in the beauty sections. But obviously there's been a few discussions today from the FMCG sector, so obviously that's a really great way of getting sampling. Birthday offers, I think one of my favorite is how Sorbet uses birthdays for its target audience. And then instant discounts, there we can see, for example, a brand like Woolworths uses the instant discount when you're in store only for loyalty members. Men, on the other hand, are a lot more practical. And you'll see here a skew towards airtime and data. Interestingly, everyone assumes the skew towards airtime and data is for the younger population. That's not necessarily the case across all ages. It's fairly similar. But we do see men skewing towards more of the status-driven rewards, like airtime lounge access, ability to move up the tiers. I can guarantee if I'm in a boardroom and someone is on eBucks Level 5 or Vitality Diamond, they will tell me. I will find out about it. And then priority boarding and the ability to share points is an interesting one. But we do find with men, the main driver is status. So I always joke about this and say, if you're on an aircraft, which many of us haven't been for quite a while, but we do see that the gentleman will always have that beautiful gold tag just on show, where the ladies tend to say, it's okay, I just want the cash back on my weekly shopping. But don't be fooled about loyalty when I say that 72% of South Africans use loyalty programs. In its own right, a loyalty program is simply the mechanic. It itself doesn't create customer loyalty. We've heard that throughout today. So if you think about your brand mix, your brand experience, could be like making a cake. You've got all the ingredients of a cake, whether it's flour, eggs, sugar, and so forth. Think about your product, price, promotion, the traditional 4 Ps of marketing or the 7 Ps of service marketing in the brand's ingredients. And then on top of all of that, you've got the yummy icing that glues it all together. And that's what a loyalty program is. It's the yumminess, the extra stuff, glues it together. But customer expectation now is the cakes have icing on it. So customer expectation, as per some of the stats I showed you earlier, is that they have loyalty programs. But don't get me wrong, if any one of the core brand ingredients is missing, like in a cake, if you miss out the flour or you miss out the sugar, it's going to flop. It's not going to be good enough. So don't think that if your product's wrong or your pricing strategy is wrong without, and then a loyalty program can come along and fix it. That is not the case. But loyalty can play a role, obviously, as a mechanic within your brand mix. Now, moving a little bit away from a loyalty program, we've heard a lot today about how data needs to be used, whether it's in the digital space, and so forth. And at the end of the day, I haven't seen many companies who really get this right, really in a way that they should be getting it right. So companies really are treating their customers as fairly average, but us as individuals, we don't see ourselves as average. I loved what Nanda showed this morning with Prince Charles and Ozzy Osbourne. That was absolutely fantastic. It was so true. Date of birth, male, children, dogs, let's treat them the same, but vastly different types of consumers. And Nanda's also talked about if you get this right and you switch and start personalizing properly with relevance, you can see a 10% uplift. Trust me, from the experience we've had with many of our CRM and loyalty clients, if you get this really right, you can see a phenomenally larger increase than that. Now, this clumsy lump of Lego actually is what a lot of companies' data looks like. It's just a lump of data files. And so many of the very established brands that you think of in South Africa, unfortunately, their data marts look like this. If they start to get it right, it maybe looks a bit more like this. Little bit of segmentation, little bit of organization. But how are they segmenting? It's a key question. So the key question is, are they segmenting on the color of the brick, the Lego brick, or are they segmenting on the size of the Lego brick? What is the right way to segment? Do you know what? The answer isn't going to come out of my mouth today. The answer is, well, what are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to understand? And what are you trying to do differently once you segment your database? So the answer to that is not crystal clear unless you know strategically what you're trying to achieve. And then, at the end of the day, we want to move from clusters of segments into personalization. So whether you've got a Father Christmas and a snowman and 3 reindeers who look similar but have different color noses, at the end of the day, I think we heard earlier as well about hyper-personalisation. And it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for us to have that. But it is difficult. I'm not standing here today pretending that it's easy. It is difficult, but it is necessary because our customers need to trust us, and they can only trust us if you listen to them, and by listening to everything they do with you, not just what they purchase with you, what they say on social media, what they say when they fill in an application form, what they buy from you, and so on. Now, Global trends see the top 3% of customers yield about 20% of your turnover. That's very prominent in retail, restaurants. In fact, most of the organizations we work with, either locally or internationally, have this distribution curve, no surprise. We saw a phenomenal stat from MGM in the USA that the gaming industry sees the top 4% of customers yielding 54% of revenue. My goodness me, you will get to know who that 4% of customers are at all costs. And then this leads to the obvious 80-20 rule, which in our experience isn't actually 80-20. It's 20% of your customers should be yielding about 75% of revenue. But that means if you know that, you can love your most profitable customers, love them at all costs, but you have to know who they are. You have to be able to identify them. Because if you don't identify them, you are absolutely at risk of the seduction from competitors. So by getting to know who your top customers are, working every single data point that you possibly have and improving the customer experience, and we've heard this before today, you can potentially inoculate your best customers against the inevitable seduction of a competitor who may be doing this better. I have a case study where a top segment was worth 40% of turnover, and yet when you actually looked at share of wallet, they only had about 20% of share of wallet, and they sat comfortably thinking this customer loved them, but there was still an 80% headroom to play with. So at the end of the day, loyalty programs and the data that we all have to work with every day, not because we have to, but because it's the right thing to do, means we can work on the retention. Stop chasing those acquisition programs, although having followed Fernando, his phenomenal presentation was obviously a lot of customer acquisition campaigns against McDonald's. But retention is the new growth. Loyalty programs are not the best way to work strategies to acquire customers. Loyalty programs are there to help you retain your customers. Do the sexy Burger King advertising and campaigns to acquire new customers, but once you've got them, loyalty can really drive that retention. I've got a lovely case study here to share with you from Amazon Prime, and it's interesting because it's a subscription-based loyalty program, and sometimes there's a big debate, is that really loyalty if you're having to pay every month? But at the end of the day, who cares? I'm not somebody who gets hung up on definitions. Amazon Prime memberships, they claim that 94% retention rate from a Prime customer. That's unbelievable in year one. And then after 3 years, 98% stay for a third year, which I haven't seen stats like that elsewhere. So whether Amazon Prime, because it's subscription-based, is a loyalty program by definition or not, I don't care. It is creating retention and customer loyalty. So effectively, we have to move our entire brain in this equation to say it's no longer about transactions. That's a given, right? It's a given that we'll collect data and understand it from a transactional point of view. But it's about moving entirely into that emotional, trusting relationship, because the customer knows you know so much about them, but they trust you to do it with purpose, with soul. Again, some fantastic things we've been hearing throughout today. So it's moving into that emotional relationship, using the data responsibly. I just want to share with you finally, if you're interested in stats on loyalty, there are a series of loyalty white papers available on the truth.co.za website. And then finally, the debate today, Pepe, I've enjoyed it enormously about awards, and you asked Fernando the same thing. I've been watching it interestingly because the bottom left-hand corner of the screen here is the Loyalty Awards that close next Friday. We host the South African Loyalty Awards, and if there's any phenomenal loyalty work out there, remember, loyalty is interesting, CRM is interesting because you can measure it. It's all so measurable. So actually these awards are measuring great performance, and it closes next Friday, and the website is southafricanloyaltyawards.com. So at the end of the day, loyalty cannot be bought. It or created. It is earned as a result of loving, understanding, and engaging with your customers on a level far deeper than your greatest discount. And that takes work and commitment and absolute passion. Thank you very, very much.